All right, so 1 and 2 have you just looking for the GCF. So tomorrow's quiz has 9 problems on it. I just checked it out. There's about 2 per type. And then,
45.
I don't know, 18 points? 27? I don't know if each one is worth 1, 2, or 3. I can't remember. Problems like 1 and 2, those ones will not take you very long. You literally, for 1 and 2, when it wants you to find the GCF and then factor it out, that's not like 3 through 10 where you're doing ABC. So when it says when you see the words GCF and it's actually asking you for the GCF, you look at your terms here and you try to find the largest number or variable that divides evenly into all of them. So for number 1, all of the numbers here are divisible by 3. And then you have an x cubed and x squared, and then this doesn't have an x, so you can't include an x in it. So your GCF in this case is a 3. But then you take all of the terms and divide by that GCF and figure out what's left over. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. And then x cubed has nothing to divide with, so you just bring down the x cubed. 6 divided by 3 is 2. X squared has nothing to divide with, so you bring down the x squared. Negative divided by 3 is negative 1. And that's it. This would be your final answer. You're done. Don't make those harder than they are. For number 2, same thing. We're going to look for the GCF. We have an 8, a 9, and a negative 13. The only thing that divides evenly into all of those is a 1. So you write a 1 if you would like. Then you have x squared, x, and x cubed. When you are looking at your variables, they all have at least an x. So you always go for the one with the smallest exponent, which would be this x to the first. So we have x to the first, and you can write a 1, x to the first power if you want, or just an x. So then you take every single term and divide by 1x. When you divide with variables with exponents, you subtract their exponents. So 8 divided by 1 is 8. X squared divided by x, subtract them. Basically, it just goes down 1 for exponents. So you have x, or x to the first. Positive 9 divided by 1 is a positive 9. X over x, they actually cancel each other out because it's the same thing. And then negative 13 divided by 1 is negative 13. X cubed divided by x, 3 minus 1, you have x squared. And that's all you would need for that one. And you don't need to have this 1 out in front here, or you could put a 1 for the exponents, but you don't need to. So looking at these two, any questions, comments, concerns? No? We good?
No.
Okay. Number 3. Now we actually are factoring. So when we get to these quadratics, anytime you have a square, that's going to be your red flag that you start with the ABC. And you're going to want to follow those steps. So A in this case is 1, B is negative 6, and C is 5. So then you do A times C, 1 times 5 is 5, and then B is negative 6. So now you have to think of 2 numbers that multiply to get 5, and those same 2 numbers have to add to get negative 6. Because this is a positive 5, it could be 2 positives or it could be 2 negatives. The fact that this is a negative 6 lets you know that it's going to be 2 negatives. So what are my numbers? 5 and 1, both negative. Negative 5 and negative 1. And I would recommend tomorrow, like just double checking, plug this into a calculator. Is negative 5 times negative 1 a positive 5? Yep. Is negative 5 plus negative 1 a negative 6? Yes. In this case, now what you're going to want to do is check over here. If A is 1, you're done. Take your numbers here and shove them in parentheses with the variable. So take x minus 5 and then x minus 1. And that's it. So once you find your numbers, you can just put them right straight into the parentheses and call it a day. You're going to hope and pray for every single problem tomorrow to have A to be 1. They aren't, but you're going to hope for it. Yes, sir. Do you see how my numbers here are negative 5 and negative 1? Yeah. That's what gets put into my parentheses, the negative 5 and the negative 1, with whatever variable I have out in front.
How many 2s are in the quiz?
What?
How many 2s are in the quiz?
What do you mean 2s?
You know exactly what I mean 2s.
He means the ones without like the 1 for.
So with like, I think 3.
Okay, that's not too
It's not too bad, no. Any other questions on this one? Okay, let's take a look at number 4. So for number 4, again, you are factoring, so you're going to list out your A, your B, and your C. A is 1, B is 18, C is 81. So you do A times C, which is 81, B is 18. So now you have to think of two numbers that multiply to get 81. Hold on. Same two numbers have to add to get 18. And CJ says that 9 times 9 is 81, and 9 plus 9 is 18. Once you find your numbers, then you're going to want to run back over here and hope and pray that this is a 1, and it is, so that means you're done. Take the 9s and put them in, these are positive 9s, so this says Y, so I'm going to do Y with a positive 9, Y with a positive 9, and that's your answer. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to skip 5 and 6 because I asked you guys to skip those today. Let's go down to number 7. Number 7, because I told you guys not to do them today. Well, I mean, 5 and 6 are very similar to like 9, 8, and 10. So that's why you didn't need to do it.
Why does 6 look like that?
Well, look at number 8. Number 8 looks kind of the same way. So that's why we're going to walk through. I'm going to walk through a shortcut way to do 8 and 10 and 6 pretty much. They're not too bad. For number 7, so again, list out your A, your B, and your C. A is 1, B is negative 8, C is negative 48. So A times C is negative 48, and your B is negative 8. So now you're trying to find two numbers that multiply to get negative 48. Same two numbers need to add to get negative 8. So the fact that this is a negative and you're multiplying means one number is positive and one number is negative. What are the two numbers? Negative 12 and 4. Negative 12 times 4 is negative 48. Negative 12 plus 4 is negative 8. Then I go back over here. A is 1. So this is what I shove in my parentheses with the variable. So my variable is a y. So I have y, and then I have a minus 12. And then I have a y, and then this is a positive 4. And that's the last one where we can get away without breaking apart that middle term. So any questions there? All right. So let's take a look at number 8. You're going to hate me when you see these numbers. Okay, for number 8, you again are still factoring. You do these the same exact way that we've been doing all the rest of them. So we list out first A, B, and C. Bless you. A is 9. B is the middle term, which is missing. So that means B is 0. Whenever you're missing a term, you still have to account it with your A, B, and C. So in this case, we're going to hold its place value with a 0. And then your C is going to be that 64, but look to the left of it, it's negative. So you have negative 64. This is where you're going to not be happy. Then you do A times C. So you have to do 9 times negative 64. What is 9 times negative 64?
576.
Negative 576. And your B is 0. So even though this is a huge number, finding your number, and the fact that this is a 0 is actually makes it easier for you to find your numbers. I know it might not seem like that now, but it is. Because now you're trying to find two numbers that multiply to get this negative 576. Because this is negative, that means one has to be positive and one has to be negative. Now, these same two numbers need to add to get 0. So not only are you looking for a positive and negative number, but those same positive and negative numbers, when you add them together, they have to cancel each other out, which means that they have to be the same number. So what I would do is, in your calculators, if you take this 576 This works only when your b is 0. If you take the square root of it, what in the world? If you take, let me find my phone calculator.
This is square root. This is definitely not on the quiz.
Find decimals.
24.
Yes. Yep.
Number 9 is hard.
So if you take square root of 576, you get 24. So that means that these two numbers are both 24s. But one is positive, one is negative.
Hey Siri, what's 24 times negative 24?
It's negative 576. So now that you found these two numbers, this is the shortcut way to find them. Or you could sit there and divide and keep going that way, but this is definitely the shortcut way. Then once you find your two numbers, you head back over here. And this is where you're going to be upset because A is not 1. So you don't just take these numbers and shove them in parentheses and be done. You have to now split apart the middle term. But there's no middle term to split up, so actually you're making your problem lengthier. So we rewrite this, 9x squared, and then I have plus 24x minus 24x minus 64. So I split apart the middle term that doesn't physically exist right now. And then I break it apart and I do my GCFs. So if you take a look at the left-hand side here, we have 9x squared and 24x. What is the GCF between 9x squared and 24x? 3 and x, because this has an x squared and this has an x, so that means that they both at least have an x. You will always be able to factor an x out of the first chunk here. So now I'm going to take both terms and divide by 3x, kind of like what we did in 1 and 2. So 9 divided by 3 is 3, x squared divided by x is x, positive 24 divided by 3 is a positive 8, and then the x's cancel, so that's what I'm left with. And then I head over to the other side here. I have a negative 24 and a negative 64. What's the GCF of a negative 24 and a negative 64?
3,
Go bigger.
2,
8. It's 8, but you go out front here and there's a minus sign, so that's why this has to be negative 8. This 24 has an x, the 64 does not, so that's why you do not include the x. So now we're going to divide both terms by negative 8. Negative 4x divided by negative 8 is a positive 3. Bring down the x. Negative 64 divided by negative 8 is a positive 8. This is where you check yourself. Here, your parentheses are the same. That's a good thing. That means you did it right. So take one of the parentheses, so 3x plus 8. And then your GCFs, we have a 3x minus 8. And there's your final answer. Anytime your A isn't 1, the problem will take a little bit longer. That's why your quiz is short and sweet, because we know that these take a bit.
which is
I also promise that you don't have a number like that tomorrow, I don't think.
Like on number 9.
Okay, you're overthinking it. All right, number 9. Number 9, we do have a B value, so that's a plus. So for number 9, you are, again, list out A, B, and C. A is 10, B is 7, C is negative 3. A times C is negative 30, B is 7. So now you're trying to find two numbers that multiply to get negative 30. Same two numbers need to add to get 7. So because this is a negative 30, that means one positive, one negative. What is it?
Negative 3 here times 10.
Negative 3 and 10. Negative 3 and 10. Perfect. So then once you find your numbers, you head back over here. Your A is 10. So that means you have to split apart that middle term. I think I actually am going to flip-flop these when I rewrite my problem so that I actually have some GCFs. So if I have 10x squared, I'm going to put the plus 10x next because then I have a GCF there. And then minus 3x minus 3. And you can do that. You can flip-flop them. It's totally fine. And actually, this makes things a little bit easier. So if I take a look at 10x squared plus 10x, they both have a 10 in common, and they have an x, because this has x squared, that's an x. So I divide both of them by 10x. 10 divided by 10 is 1. X squared over x is x. Positive 10 divided by 10 is a positive 1. X over x cancels out. So that's what I'm left with. On the other side, I have a negative 3x minus 3. Those are both, the GCF of those two is a 3, but then you look out front and there's a negative sign. So you're going to divide everything by negative 3. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a 1. Bring down your x. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is a positive 1. Your parentheses match, so bring down one of those. And then your GCFs, 10x minus 3.
Do you have a baggie?
Maybe. Give me one more second. Let me get through this last one. All right, last one. It's another one where B is missing, but the numbers are a little bit nicer. So you still are factoring. List out your A, your B, and your C. A is 4, B is 0, C is negative 9. So you do A times C. 4 times negative 9 is negative 36. And your B is 0. So now you're in that same situation that we were in number 8. When B is 0, to find your two numbers, you can take the square root. This one, because 36 is a number you may be familiar with, it's a little bit easier. So you're looking for two numbers that multiply to get negative 36, and those same two numbers add to get 0. What are your numbers? Negative 6 and 6. So again, you can take a square root of 36, and that will give you a 6, and then it's just the positive and negative of that number. So now go back over here. Your A is 4, so you have to split apart that middle term. So we rewrite it as 4x squared minus 6x plus 6x minus 9. Split it in half. Do your GCFs. 4x squared minus 6x has a GCF of 2x. Divide everything by 2x and you get 2x minus 3. The GCFs of 6x and negative 9, we got 3. Out in front is a positive, so that is a positive. So divide everything by positive 3 and you get 2x minus 3. So good news is when you go to check yourself, you get the same 2x minus 3. And then your GCFs go in the other set of parentheses, which is 2x plus 3. So tomorrow you'll have things, I think you have one or two, like 1 and 2. You'll have maybe 3 or 4 of problems like 3 and 4. That's kind of funny. And then the rest of them will be like 7 through 10, or like 9 and 8, 9, and 10. So are there any others that you'd like me to walk you through or talk you through?
No.
No? You feel ready to go?
No. You go to number 11.